Hello everyone and welcome to another virtual pet video. This time I aim to provide a little bit of an education or a history lesson about Tamagotchis. Now this has been more or less a requested topic for me to cover, but I'm not going to dive into the whole history of virtual pets because that's obviously for another time. But this time I'll be focusing on the history of the connections between the Digimon or the Tamagotchis. So this is in terms of how they connect with the other toys. So first of all, just a bit of housekeeping. I've set up a 30-day challenge that I'm going to be starting tomorrow, with tomorrow being the 1st of June. Now I'll be answering these in video format for the time being. They might turn into blog format depending on what the viewer rate is like and if there's actual interest for it. So I invite you to also be participating along with each of these prompts. So every day is a new prompt and you just have to answer with, maybe it might be your favourite virtual pet or your least favourite, depending on whatever the prompt for the day is. So just a heads up that that'll be happening. I'm starting it tomorrow. You can start it now, you can start it in a week from now, it's up to you, but I'll be starting it tomorrow, so June 1st. And I'll be going through the entirety of June if timing allows me to. Anyway, so the topic for today is the history of connections between Tamagotchis. So first of all, obviously we have the Digimon. So these were connected via these two prongs here. So it's just a matter of getting two of these Digimon together and you would align them up with those little plastic nubs and then connect them and they would fight data, and the data would be exchanged through the prongs. So these were using two prongs. Then in 2003 we had the introduction of three prongs, so instead of these two it would have these three, and that was introduced with the Pendulum X. It was also seen in the XL, the IC and the Mini, so I've got the Mini here. And as you can see, there are three prongs and they're going down vertically instead of horizontally across the pet. So that's how they connected. In 2010 we also had the Cross Mini, which was using the original Mini shell, and more or less we haven't really seen any of the three prongs since. We've probably just gone back to the two prongs. Obviously we have the DMX that has two prongs, then we have the version 20th which has the two prongs here. And that was the start of the connectivity between virtual pets. Because prior to this, with the Tamagotchi's original release in 1996, there was no connection. The Tamagotchi itself was all you get, with Digimon introducing the ability to battle your friends and battle other Digimon that are with the similar prongs. You could unlock the ability to evolve to perfect and onwards when the Pendulum came out. But Tamagotchi didn't really see a need for having this connectivity, but now we have this coming out in mid-1997. Then in late 1997, Tamagotchi decided to see what they could make in their own Tamagotchis rather than in the Digimon spin-off. So we have here the Osuchi and the Mesuchi, Osu meaning male, Mesu meaning female, and these were connecting via very similar and familiar looking prong style, which we see here. So when we pull off this little cracked eggshell off the top, we can see that these prongs are exposed, and we can just join these together and they actually link up. So we can sort of dangle it off. They're actually hooked in there to allow it to connect. With the Digimon, you just sort of have to hold it there, as otherwise it doesn't really lock in there at all. But these two actually locked in, and that was with the prong style that we see here. But this was released in Japan in late 1997, and the Tamagotchi didn't really do anything after that. They didn't really introduce the prongs ever again. To my knowledge, there are no other Tamagotchis besides obviously Digimon ones with these prongs. But in 2004, what was known as the Tamagotchi connection in the English market was released. So we can see here that we've got an infrared strip at the top. So this would allow you to connect to other Tamagotchis, to marry them, or to trade items, or just to make friends, just hang out, give gifts, all of that fun stuff there. And that was all using this infrared tip at the top. I believe it's called Tamagotchi Tsuchin, which is connectivity. I think it's just called Tamacom in English, which would make sense. And that's just this infrared strip here. And that was 2004. So that was 7 years after the Mesuochi and Mesuchi and Osuchi and the Digimon release in 1997. And then we basically saw that these infrared strips would more or less just stay on Tamagotchis. The infrared was the way to go. Bandai decided to keep having connectivity in the Tamagotchi toys, except for the Nano and the Minis or any of the smaller ones. But in general, the main releases had this infrared strip here. So we had a couple of versions of those. In the Western market, we had version 1, 2, 3, 4, 4.5, 5, 5.5, 6, and the Tamagotchi Tamatown, which is more or less the version 7. And then we also had the Dreamtown Tamagotchi Friends series that came after that. But in 2007, in Japan, they released the Tamagotchi, which has this infrared here. So this was early 2007, about January. And these were more or less most often sold in pairs, which is reminiscent of the Osuchi and Mesuchi from 1997. So sold in pairs with connectivity for others in that same series, which may sound familiar for anyone who is interested in Digimon virtual pets, because 2 months later, in March 2007, Bandai released the Digimon twins, L and R. So while you can buy these separately, they were more often sold in the pairs. And you can see that we have this infrared strip again. And that's fairly uncommon for Digimon virtual pets because most of them rely on the prong system. The ICs and data links also had the infrared ability, but this is the Digimon that relied on it for the communication. You could unlock special eggs, trade items, play, battle, everything you wanted to do with the infrared strip, which is, if you look at it, this is just like the Digimon version of the Tamagotchi. So they exist together. And then we had the infrared strip for basically every Tamagotchi release after. They settled with that. They didn't really go back into any prongs. We never saw the prong style ever again for Tamagotchis. And until 2018, it was all we had for communication. So in 2018, the Tamagotchi Meets was released. This was also released in 2019 as the Tamagotchi On in America and the Tamagotchi Sum in Korea, but Meets in Japan. And this would actually have a couple different types of communication. First of all, we have the strip here, that's pretty standard, and this means we could connect to the Mix, which is the Tamagotchi series before the Meets, as well as any Mix or Meet stations in Japan to unlock the special seasonal items and Tamagotchis. But the main draw of the Tamagotchi Meets is that you could actually connect to your phone with this. So this Tamagotchi actually has Bluetooth compatibility. And what you would do is you would download the Tamagotchi Meets or On or Sum app, which is sadly not available in Australia. To get in Australia, you have to download the APK because we didn't get the On released here. So it's import only, unfortunately. So you download the app and then you pair your Tamagotchi to your phone. And then what you could do is, when you go online, And this is almost reminiscent of the Tamagotchi connection, having the Tamatown, which was almost like it does sort of count as a communication, but it was only using passwords. The password system of it'll give you a password which has certain amounts of data in each field, and then you'd put the password back in and you would get whatever you bought from the game. This is real. It actually connects via Bluetooth, and you can get items, but the main thing you can get is you can actually propose to other people's Tamagotchis, and this is real people as well as the special seasonal event Tamagotchis in the app. So once a Tamagotchi accepts a proposal, you then have them make babies, and the offspring is actually a combination between both the parents and has genes from the both. So you can basically have more or less unique Tamagotchis, and that was introduced in the Tamagotchi Mix. But it is pretty cool to see this feature on something that you can basically mate with people's Tamagotchis from across the world with this app. So from prongs to infrared to Bluetooth, it's a pretty good jump. Like, I would love if we could have a Digimon with Bluetooth connectivity so we could have similar online battles. Like, that's something I really dig. So that was a quick history lesson for the connectivity between Tamagotchis. As you can see, Digimon was the first of the Tamagotchi brand, if you count it. It's made by Bandai, so it's one of the Bandai properties. That was the first time we ever saw this connectivity with the prongs, and then Tamagotchi themselves tried it and obviously didn't like it or wanted it to be more about just feeding the pet, and then they decided, oh, whatever, let's just have them make babies, whatever. So that was a quick history lesson. So let me know what you thought of this video. It's more of an informative, educational video rather than a sort of, hey, look what I'm raising at the moment video. And yeah, so let me know if you want to do the 30-day challenge. As I said, I'm starting it tomorrow. It's very exciting. I'm surprised that a lot of people have actually expressed interest in also participating, so that's always good. And yeah, so hope you enjoyed this video. Let me know what you think in the comments, and like, subscribe, etc., all that fun stuff. And I'll see you guys in the next video. Bye!